Murao Africa, welcome to the Business Wisdom Series, Open Your Door, a platform where we will discuss multiple perspectives and issues that are bedeviling our African continent. We believe Africa rising is possible. We believe we can lead the charge and feed the world and take care of the entire world. We're talking economic prosperity today. We're talking scaling up entrepreneurship. And I'm joined by Shamim, giving the anthropological viewpoint. I still want to know the meaning of anthropology. Welcome. And I'm joined by Terence Chabati, a systems change agent, to bring in their voices in this conversation. And this whole aspect of what you don't know and what you know, it's miles apart. And we start from that pretext that we know nothing. We start from the pretext that once we start dealing with human centricity, putting people at the center, looking at problems the way they're supposed to be looked at, we start making headway in terms of solving the challenges that we have. I remember Strive Masiwa saying, what do you have in your hand? And I think that's a good starting point. And I want to turn to you, great people, and ask about the whole opportunity. How do we architect opportunities for people? Because we need to help them make more money. And you've been in the entrepreneurial journey, coaching and in the trenches running it. So how do we begin to scale up entrepreneurship in Africa? And what are some of the opportunities that you see?
It's interesting, the quote you gave from Strive Myself, what do you have in your hand? And I think we all need to appreciate that we've got something in our hand. If you are clutching on to what you assume is nothing, is yourself. You yourself are the powerful individual. When you realize that I am living, I'm here today, then discover what you can do or your purposes. As people have normally alluded to, you begin there. So I think we've got ourselves as people, as individuals, as the starting point. Discover those talents within yourself. What problem can I solve? What problem can I be remunerated for? Or what problem is dear to me? Linking with the issues of SDGs, we're going into 2030, it's coming around the corner. It's less than 9 years away. Africa Rising, we've been speaking about that. African Union is also pushing Agenda 2063. So us as individuals, we've got many talents, and we now have to find out, how can I contribute to the rising of Africa? How can I contribute to make sure that this is the African century?
We talk 2063, we talk 2030 SDG finish line, but the issue of time, when we're talking about it offline, do you think we have a sense of urgency? We always feel we have time and we don't have. Speak to me about time. Speak to me about time.
Well, that's a hard one, honestly. And I think the earlier we realize that we don't actually have time is our trade, right? And the more we treat time as something that is in abundance, we will be left behind. I was recently talking about how when COVID-19 happened, as we are struggling to, how do people manage to work from home? Do we have the right infrastructure? Is the internet reliable? The rest of the world is already there. So people are just saying, okay, tomorrow I'm not coming to work, I'm staying home. We are struggling with, how do I make this work, right? And this tells you that we are not paying attention. Because when we say we are part of the global world, we have to pay attention. So we have SDGs, 2030 is coming closer, right? Have we even talked about how far we've come?
How far have we?
So our countries, our people get to understand their contribution in terms of, okay, SDG 8, SDG 4, this is what we've been able to achieve, right? As a nation, right? And then what would be your contribution as a citizen of the country? If you did A, B, C, and D, this will lead us to this step. We're not having those conversations amongst our people. We are keeping those conversations somewhere in the corner, in the boardroom somewhere, I don't know where, right? So when we talk about the issue of time, it comes from how we see time from a national perspective, And the reason why we are also still finding obstacles in terms of how we interact as Africa, because some people are there, others are still sleeping, others are just woken up. And as long as we get to a moment and understand that, you know, if we don't do something in a particular time, the world moves, technologies move as well, right? People change. We have external pressures. With COVID, who knows what's coming tomorrow? So,
because I speak about that because when the lockdown in Uganda happened, the 42-day lockdown, some people thought that is a nice holiday or vacation time. When other people just started working and rearranging their activities and just disrupting their model and saying, this is the way we do business. Some of the people we've been training online through the masterclasses with Terence are actually online conversations where leaders are actually saying, no, we're going to do it online. That's the new way of working. But if I don't have that value of time as an entrepreneur, I'm not going to do much about it. The other thing is, what is in it for me if Uganda achieves 2030? Their SDGs, or we track them. What is in it for me as an entrepreneur sitting in Zambia if we achieve SDGs? It looks like there's that disconnect, because go to any business leader, 80% of them have no clue what you're talking about. So I think who is responsible for that communication, even as we start talking about opportunity? Yeah.
It's the issue of collaboration and understanding your role within that system. So don't look at your peers as competitors. Look at them as collaborators. Bringing it back to the family system and from an individual point of view, you are part of the family. You are probably the head of your family. You've got cousins and extended cousins, and if you let go and say, oh, this one is he's loved in poverty and he's not my concern, a time will come where you realize that because of our extended family culture as Africans, broadly speaking, you probably will reach out. Those kids, maybe they are very close with your kids. You're going to have to take care of them as well. But you could have done something about it much earlier. So there's a cause and effect here. It's not saying it's about he's bad. What could I have done before? Time has passed. You did not do it then when you had the opportunity. Start from now. You talked about the issue of lockdown period when it started. I'm glad that some people actually say, this is what I achieved in the 42-day period. This is what I achieved during lockdown, the first lockdown. If another lockdown, it's a time for people to focus. Some people have used that time to focus. What are you using your time for is really important. So I think when we look at time, look at the evaluation from the time you're doing that assessment. What am I going to do from today?
But to be honest, Terence, I think as I grow, as my beards turn gray, it's when I now recognize that time is of premium importance.
True.
Back then, when I was younger, these holidays and lockdowns, then they weren't, but any period of time, it's a time to chill and to relax. How do you put fire in somebody's back to say, guys, this is the opportunity. We don't have time. This time is of the essence, because the opportunities are there. The money is there to be made, but it seems there's that disconnect where people, how they're investing their time, their
Can
activities.
I throw that back to you, Elton? What changed?
Age. I don't know. I just have a sense of urgency now. I know what changed. I connected with my source, my purpose. My work does not feel like work anymore. Remember that quotation? Find something you love and you never have to work a day in your life. And I think that's what that happened. So throughout this lockdown and even last time, I was connected to my purpose, and I've been driving that. So I think, and I see time so important, and I'm saying, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? And I think that is what changed. And age, of course.
But we also need to recognize, so when you talk about, are we supposed to push fires into people? We're not going to push people into fire or push people towards fire. I don't know what that is, but no one is going to push you to change who you are. If you're comfortable in your zone, this world is for the winner takes it all, right? And so if we don't recognize, as we push the agenda of Africa Rise, you need to know there will be competition. Even though we're looking for collaboration, but there will be healthy competition, but also sometimes unhealthy. And so if you don't prepare yourself in the sense of how you use your time, how you use your skills, how you apply them, how you seek knowledge to understand what's going on, the winner will take it all.
Yeah. This is they call it, this is a reusable world. This is a usable world. If you use your time in the right way, it's a great world. If you use it in the wrong way, it's a cruel world. And I think that's important to hammer before we even talk about opportunity, because the commitment in building a business, like we're saying, it's a long game. So now that I've buttoned up my purpose, I understand I'm the constraint. I am centered in terms of what I want to achieve. What are some of the opportunities do you see, you in particular, and also Terence, to say, when you came into a space, you're saying when you're out there, you see the forest and not the trees. When you're here, there's that gap you now see and say, oh, I'm going to start discover. What happened? Like that synthesis and that decision making to get to that point. What happened to you?
Okay. So for me, it's two things: purpose and focus, right? So my purpose connected me to my country, and to even love more, love my where I come from more. But it did not only start from there, because for me, I believe one of the reasons when people ask me why I'm constantly learning something, right? It's because I have this curiosity for knowledge, right? And so I want to venture more and understand, but how come this one has been able? Because I believe that we all have the ability to do things if we put our minds to them, right? The difference is the energy we put in and our focus, right? So for me, it was focus. Focus, my exposure gave me that focus much more than ever, because then I realized, why do I get upset, for example, when I go to Uganda and I see this happen? Do people still do that? So I found myself in the space of my practice, going to places and challenging people. Say I'm seeking a service from you, and I'm challenging your interaction with me. I don't see connection. I do not, something is really lacking. Challenging things as the visuals, like I said, walking to a building and I'm thinking, you guys, if I were a person with disability, physical disability, how would I use your premises? So having that outlook and challenging business owners, and I've always had this thing of, you're serving me, yes, you might not be the business owner, but I say, I need to have a conversation with your business owner. And we shall have a conversation and I'll say, I noticed this, that, and that.
So you, even if they're not your client, etc., you're interested, you're connected to your purpose.
Yes, because I am passionate about what I offer, right? And so I think of business in the perspective of, had we done this, that, where would we be right now, right? So the connection of business owners to the people they are giving a service. Let's not see people as customers. And that's why I keep pushing this whole idea of the people agenda. The human-centric perspective of seeing the people that use your services is very important, because then you're designing for people and not customers.
But they say customer is king.
I know, and some of that vocabulary we can't take away. So someone will be a customer because they are purchasing something from you. But when you are designing, you are focusing on the people that use your service and on the customer, right? And so when I engage business leaders in conversations about, I noticed your employee did A, B, C, and D, or I noticed it's a restaurant, your employees stand for maybe 7 whatever hours, they don't have comfortable shoes. Because remember, when we talked about this whole thing about efficiency and productivity, I said our focus should be purpose and potential. And so purpose and potential brings you to the connection of well-being of your people, right? So if I'm in a restaurant and I'm standing 7 hours and I'm not wearing comfortable shoes, I'm gonna hate my job. So that means you'll spark off for any comment that a customer makes because you are not happy about what's going on. So for me, it was much more of the connection I have with what I want to see. I want to bring the human-centric perspective. So I'm helping businesses bring out the human side.
And so when you move around, the lens is always open and there's a challenge there. Yes,
I am always watching. And that's why I love anthropology, because it doesn't put me in a box where I can only be in the health sector. No, I can see things because it's the way I'm tuned. I can see things in whatever direction, whether it's on the road and I notice it's a zebra crossing, you're driving over a zebra crossing and people are standing and I'm thinking, hey, come on, there's a zebra crossing for a reason. We need to make our people aware and educated. And I know that this could seem a bit simple because I was having a conversation with a friend who told me, Shmim, you need to be very careful because this is Uganda, and that really hurts me. And I'm saying we are accepting.
So this is Uganda to say a lower standard is all right?
Yes, and you're like, no, it's okay. In Uganda, we can just drive over a zebra crossing. And I'm thinking, no. Our mindset needs to shift. We can't always keep expecting our leaders to bring
To step in and solve every problem.
Play something. We must play a part. There was a zebra crossing. Before you get on the road, you are qualified to drive. At least that's what I know, right? But we see a lot of these things happening. So there's a zebra crossing. Let people cross. Simple things.
Where they're rushing to.
Absolutely. And then you notice, yes, there could be a zebra crossing, but it's rubbing off. So what have we done in terms of design to alert people that, hey, there's a zebra crossing here? So things of that nature.
And simple things.
Absolutely.
That then become the lead domino. And people always say, oh, we need resources. It's not like fixing a road. It's just a painted line.
If there's a saying, guys, which I think needs to be abolished in Africa, is TIA. This is Africa. I think it's a unfortunate.
I need a glass of water. God help me. I just get so upset with
TIA, BMT.
Because then that means that we do not even have to question our leaders when they do something wrong. If we accept this is Africa, so Africa takes junk.
True. So we really need to stop saying
TIA.
This is Africa.
TIA.
That's an excuse.
We could spin it for a positive context.
Yeah.
No, in this case, we should just abolish it because it's an excuse for mediocrity.
Yes.
And we are saying, guys, it's Africa, mpola, let's do things easy. This is what we do in Africa. I think we need to stop having such a mindset and say, guys, we are part of the world. We are not a second-class citizen as Africans. We are part of the global. Even this whole issue of global north, global south. It's one globe. Let's. Obviously, there are inequalities associated there. But what are we doing to get ourselves to stop this demarcation once again of global north, global south? I started having a different mindset. I think about 4 years back. I joined Africa Leadership University Business School, where it was a conservation MBA. To me, conservation was nothing within my radar at all. But I walked into a classroom full of zoologists, rangers.
Anthropologists.
We didn't have an anthropologist then. But, you can imagine my background had been marketing communications, that I walk into this class and I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? So actually Fred Swanica, the leader of African Leadership Group, got back to me and he actually said, because I was grateful I was there, but I was like still questioning myself, maybe the imposter syndrome of, why am I here? But he said, Terence, we've left conservation to conservationists for too long. We all need to be conservationists. Because it's a connected world. We are part of the system. We need to have a future cohort of accountants, anthropologists, strategists, doctors, even studying. There's a young man from Rwanda who had finished his medical school and actually went in and started doing a conservation. They call it Global Challenges degree, which was really centered on conservation. How am I going to look at doing good for the planet, for people, the whole triple P, profit, purpose in there. Yeah. You've put all 4 P's in there: purpose, people, profit, planet. How can we coexist together? So that's when I started looking at, SDGs. We used to have global, what were they called? MDGs, Millennium Development Goals. Yeah. And then they changed to SDGs. Understanding now how the SDGs contribute to different companies. Yeah. If you are in the brewery industry, as an example, if you look at the quality of water coming into your system, if you don't do anything about the quality of water, it's going to go into your system,
right? Yeah.
Wear down your plant, and your replacement costs will go higher. We've got a company here which actually invested into the water system within the particular area where their factory is. That for me is looking at quality of water, not just for the business purpose, but for people around that area as well. You've saved your plant, it's now getting quality water coming in, and you then think, where does engineering fit into the SDGs. So it's a challenge to organizations out there. Look at the SDGs. How do you blend? What's your purpose as an organization? Which SDGs do you subscribe
Are you aligned to?
and align to, and work towards that?
And let your workers be aligned to them as well.
True that. This is another topic. I mean, where we're talking about values, culture within an organization.
Yeah.
That needs a full day with you, great people. So you guys are speaking from your, when I hear you speak, you're speaking from your circle of competence, which you have gone out there, self-driven and developed. On an anthropological view, I'm learning that. You should give me a reward. So you have learned this, and you then said human centricity. That's the business you anchored your business Discover. You went ahead, systems change. You went to conservation, and you then said, I think this is the place I want to edge myself. How does a young entrepreneur or an established one start finding a circle of competence? Did you say, oh, there's an opportunity there, so I'm doing it? Or it was purely driven by purpose or opportunity? How does a young man or a young woman out there or an established business person start the journey towards building a business?
I think that you need to be, I still bring in this point of awareness. You need to be aware of what's going on, because you don't just come into business for the sake of coming into business. So coming into business should be beyond money, right? And I think when Terence talked about this whole idea, when organizations actually pay attention to the SDGs, say a brewery, for example, how it would benefit from paying attention to the water system, it brings about a point of corporate social justice. Because, you know, we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. We can build on knowledge that other people have already availed, right? And so when we talk about the issue of corporate social justice, looking at how, say, a brewery plant, for example, it's been able to do this and that. So we're saying you can make money as you impact your community. Right? So it's not always about, it's our money, it's about it. We are calling out corporate social justice, because from that perspective, then when you pay attention to the community, there are young entrepreneurs who can actually partner with you. Yeah. So you're a brewery, you're paying attention to the SDG, which is the water aspect. It's impacting your community. You might need something as an extension, and then young people come in to actually gun around you to avail that service. So we need to be aware and pay attention to what's going on.
But this thing of sharing wealth or sharing my profits with people around me, you see, if I become a rich man, Shamim, I will not share with you. And if companies are, let me say, selfish, because it's them and their employees, what happens outside is something else. And climate change is a whole big elephant as well. How do we begin to inculcate or inspire such behavior change in society, even as we help entrepreneurs to start this journey, so that they are responsible citizens and are also adding value to the planet?
You're talking about key competence. We've all got different key competence. And when we discover those as a young entrepreneur, just going out there saying, I want to make a difference in the world, and hopefully make some money while I'm doing it, or make a living while I'm doing it. When you do that, you'll not be able to do that alone. You will need the customers. You will need people to help you build that particular business. Even if you're at a different stage of your business, be it startup, you moved up to maybe you start off as a micro SME, you move on to the SME stage. You're going to need help along those. As you scale up to a scale up level, you're going to need help. When you now know your key competence, you understand, what don't I know? Because there's a lot you don't know. There's a lot I don't know, know? As I open up, when I open my door to those voices, when I open my door to understand, how do I get to know what I don't know? Then growth starts happening. You feel uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable, that means you are now moving out of your comfort zone.
So even introverts should start talking to people, reaching out to people.
Oh, they do communicate. Maybe not necessarily talking out verbally, but they've got their way. If you find a way of saying, okay, this is Shamim, she's an introvert. How does she speak?
I am an introvert, by the way.
That's a debate
for
another day.
That's a different discussion.
I need a definition for an introvert.
But when you now Open up, be vulnerable, and say, how do I listen to more people? Once I've opened this door, my door, how am I going to learn? So earlier on we've spoken about in different discussions, unlearning. Forget all you've learned before and start again. Unlearn, learn, relearn.
And relearn.
And don't stop there. Continue doing that.
It then becomes a continuous journey. And how do you encourage? I think the biggest challenge in my mentorship journey, small time and even coaching, the reading culture. You said awareness that comes from reading, get to know the signal. Some people, once they're done with campus or their diploma, that's it. The next book or paper they read is a newspaper, or just look at the headline, what are they saying, and then that informs them. How do we continuously learn? Where can we look to? Yeah.
I've told people before, when I was growing up, I used to read lots of Mills and Bond books, right? So I would read anything, newspapers. I remember I used to read newspapers to my dad would bring a newspaper and he would ask me to read for him. So I would do that. So I had a culture of learning, right from the time of my childhood. But, as I grew up into my master's, into my doctorate, I felt like I should now start skimming what I'm reading, right? Because then I was into spaces where I'm reading theory. It's exhausting mentally. So what I resorted to in terms of my learning is, and I know we've had a conversation before about technology. And the conversation about, yes, technology will take all our jobs. And I keep telling people that the focus that we have towards technology is not what really should be. The conversation is, how should people use technology?
True.
Today, with lots of innovations, there are lots of people who are developing apps that will give you a snapshot of what that book is about. So you don't really have to read from page 1 to 1,000 pages, right? Yeah. So let's leverage that. But there are other simple ways of actually taking in. So I am very specific on what I read. So whereas then I used to read to have fun, so I would read David Baldacci, and I'm just so into the FBI thing. Now I don't do that anymore because I'm thinking I am very strategic towards what I choose.
So that you keep on adding to your body of knowledge.
Absolutely, to my body of knowledge. So now when I'm doing my research in organizational culture and conflict management in employee performance, the kind of perhaps literature that appeals to me is around leadership or around those spaces. So I will engage more into those spaces rather than reading something else that perhaps has nothing to do with what I'm doing. And that goes back to purpose and, the idea of purpose and potential, because then I know my purpose is that I'll keep myself on that track. Yeah. But the other thing I've noticed, when we look at Hollywood, we think that it's just Hollywood, right? And one of my observations is there are lots of films, series that actually inform our thinking and understanding or awareness of how we do things. There are lots and lots of series about, I recently watched something called Startup. And this is about, young people who want to start out in a tech company, but they don't have resources. Mm-hmm. They end up facing all these billionaire guys. No one is willing to give them their money. They ended up getting their first chunk of money from a drug dealer who also had got the money elsewhere. So the risks, so for me as someone who is starting up, I'm thinking about, yes, I'll need resources, but also for me to indulge in that, I'll have to take risks. To what stage do I actually safeguard myself against that risk that it doesn't take me down? So it's not a straight line, it's a bit of that. Yeah. And so we need to be aware of the resources that are available to us, the movies that we watch, what do they inform us? Let's just not watch movies for the sake of watching and entertainment, but pick something, lessons as we are entertained. I always have a notebook on the side when I'm watching. So someone says something and I'm thinking, oh, I need to pause that, write it down. And then I think about it later. Or in terms of the trainings that perhaps I do when I engage with people, I recently told you guys about New Amsterdam. Yeah. As someone who is helping organizations to go through the change processes, for me, that's exciting because I'm looking at the perspective of how they're going through their change processes, how they're actually breaking down barriers of systems of, hey, guys, systems are there to help us. If they're not meeting the need of a person that we are targeting, we need to banish them and then put something else in place. So going beyond the boundaries and being able to say, be brave enough and bold enough to say, we must change over time.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Also-
And learning, yeah, please go ahead.
Just to add on to that, I think we need to adopt lifetime learning. And I know you had spoken about the reading culture, which we don't seem to have mostly. But I think the whole aspect of learning is important. So the learning culture can be taken in different forms. She's mentioned movies. I now know when I'm taking her for a movie, I'll go with a script, a book, a notebook, and she can take her notes.
Don't bother with the ice cream and the popcorn.
Yeah, you know,
just a notebook and a pen will do for Shamin. Yeah.
But within that, they also we've been recently exposed to Lego Serious Play. You know, kids using their hands to think. You know, this is how when we were playing outside, we'd build cars, wire cars, and we're doing this, or we play in house. I'm a doctor. When kids are playing, they're serious.
Yes.
They were serious. They are serious when they're outside. I'm building this to them.
Fortnite strategy.
There you go. So they're learning strategy and all these things. So actually, the use of metaphors, we've been able to bring that using Lego Serious Play into the office space, into meetings, into coaching, into mentorship. And you're thinking with your hands. You're saying, I'm using metaphors to describe different things. And the beauty about dreams and these metaphors, it's yours.
Yeah.
No one can take it or give a different narrative. And I think it's a lesson for us from an African perspective where we are saying we need to start telling our own stories.
Yeah, telling your story and the whole aspect of self-education
Yes.
is mission critical, because we get to a place where we're saying, oh, have a degree, that's good enough. You go to a workplace and your skills are no longer relevant
Applicable.
for a new world that we find ourselves. This is pretty powerful stuff. So if I figure out my purpose, I start looking for a mastermind to be able to help me, and I get that passionate and passionate about developing myself as a person and seeking out the people and the voices that can help me. So I need to be vulnerable, open my door. And what do I get out of that? Better results? Does that help me to scale up faster?
Well, what we need to understand is it will be a catalyst. Because you can do all these things, you can seek out mentorship, but if what lies deep down in you does not speak to what you're actually doing, everything else that you're doing is a catalyst to get you to that destination, right? And so that means that we must be aware at all times. So what do you want? Because also individual needs change. You know, I could be passionate about something today, and then suddenly something else happens, and I'm like, I want that, right? And so we need to pay attention to the trends. Because you will want to be like Shamin. Like I told you guys my story yesterday about I grew up seeing Condoleezza Rice, and she was my idol. And every time I saw myself as a fast, I was just thinking I'll be, a Secretary of State someday. But as I grew up, my needs changed, and my perspective towards the world changed. And so I find solace in the kind of work that I do because I feel it changes souls. It just meets the human aspect of who we are.
And really tapping into the potential of the human being. I think we're really scraping the surface.
Yes, yeah.
What would be your parting shot on this topic?
It is Africa's century. You are not a second-class citizen, and you contribute towards that change. Up until you know yourself, you know what you can do, that's when change starts to happen. Great. Never underestimate the power you've got as an individual.
Great. Shamim, what would be your parting shot on this?
Wow, you are enough. All right. I feel that we don't say that many times. The idea of comparing ourselves to one person after the other. Let's appreciate other people. Let's see what we can learn from them. But I tell you, you are enough.
I remember when I was in ISEC years ago, I got a poem and it really resonated to me up to today. It says, at first I tried to change the world and I failed. I went down, I tried to change my nation, I tried to change my society, and I failed dismally. I went down, I tried to change my community, and I realized if I can first change myself, then I can go on and change my family, and change my community, and change my society, and change my nation. And I think this is really the essence and the philosophical context of what we've been talking about. And we want to keep on having these discussions in the Business Wisdom series. And as we open our doors, we're hoping that people out there will open their doors and we engage as we build a treasure trove of business intel, of business wisdom to help us scale up Africa. Because we need to make sure that this becomes the African century. We need to turn all the tables and make sure we remove all the obstacles on the way. We will continue with more and diverse discussions with more voices, and we invite you on this exciting journey, and we want you to come on with us. And if you need to follow us, Business Wisdom series on YouTube, or write to us on the email on the screen. Thank you so much, and I look forward to engaging you further. And Shamim and Terence, thank you so much for making this journey exciting for me. Until next time.
Goodbye.
Murakoze.
Thank you.